I'm honored to bring to you the first super fight in women's boxing history, featuring two-time Olympic gold medalist and two-division world champion Clarissa Shields, featuring fighting against longtime reigning and defending world champion Christina Hammer of Germany. This fight is going to be televised live on Showtime and come to you from the legendary Boardwalk Hall in Atlantic City. A lot of questions around this fight. Is it going to be like Leonard Hearns, a classic, where the Olympic gold medalist broke down the longtime pro? Or is it going to be like Mosde versus De La Hoya, where the experienced pro handed the Olympic gold medalist their first defeat? The boxing world is split, and this is why this is such an exciting fight, where two of these fighters, both in their peaks, are coming together to unify the four belts. Again, this fight is going to be televised live on Showtime on Saturday, April 13th, and it's going to take place in the legendary, iconic Boardwalk Hall. And we're very honored to have this great venue as our host, and I'd like to invite the general manager, Mr. Jim Wincoop, to say a few words on Boardwalk and the fight.
Well, thank you. I know you didn't come to hear me talk, so I will keep this pretty short. I do appreciate the fact that Spectre Venue Management, the company I work for, has given me the privilege of managing Jim Whalen Boardwalk Hall, and I couldn't tell you how excited we are to have this great fight coming to Atlantic City and coming to Boardwalk Hall, which will be our first unification fight, our first championship fight in probably 4 or 5 years. So we're very excited about that. I would like to just thank the Casino Reinvestment Development Authority for their support and partnership in helping make this happen. And I would like to thank Spectre Venue Management and Spectre Food Services and all the people who go into making our building as successful as it is. Obviously, there's a huge history of boxing in Atlantic City, a huge history of boxing at Jim Whalen Boardwalk Hall, and we look forward to writing another chapter come April 13th. So, thank you very much.
This fight will not happen without the support of the #1 network in boxing, Showtime, and I'm personally very grateful to Mr. Gordon Hall and Mr. Steven Espinoza for taking the leap of faith and believing in initially Clarissa Shields and then believing in Christina Hammer and taking all the necessary steps to build this super fight. I'd like to invite Mr. Steven Espinoza from Showtime to talk about this fight.
Let's start off by getting one thing straight here. This isn't just an important women's fight. This isn't a high-quality women's boxing match. This is a high-quality boxing match. This is an important fight. So certainly we have two very skilled women. We're not going to ignore that fact. But this is one of the best fights that can be made in the sport. Two pound-for-pound boxers, two elite skilled boxers, the best fighting the best. If you're not interested in this fight, then candidly, you're not a boxing fan. This is as good as this sport gets. Now, having said that, I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that these kinds of opportunities are long overdue. Unfortunately, the US market is behind much of the rest of the world. You see in Mexico and Latin America, you see women boxers headlining televised cards all the time. In fact, some of the highest ratings on Mexican television come from women's bouts. The same is true for Europe. So this is one area where the US market, unfortunately, is behind much of the rest of the world. We at Showtime are doing our part and have been doing our part to try and change that. Not just in boxing, but we've got a long history in women's MMA as well. So names like Layla Ali and Christy Martin, Ronda Rousey, Miesha Tate, Gina Carano, Chris Cyborg. Those are all names that made their debuts that became familiar to the audience on Showtime. And this has been a long time commitment. And the first nationally televised women's MMA event was on Showtime. The first nationally televised women's main event was on Showtime. The first women's boxing match that was nationally televised in the US was on Showtime. The first women's main event bout, boxing bout, was also on Showtime, and that obviously was Clarissa just a couple short years ago. So here on the stage, and I will give them the stage very shortly because you've heard enough from me. You've got two of the most elite athletes in the sport. Not two of the elite women fighters of the sport, two of the elite athletes within this sport. Two-time gold medalist, the only American to do that, and a two-belt world champion versus a longtime middleweight champion who has dominated this division for nearly a decade. This is, yet again, as I stated, one of the best fights that can be made in the sport. Of course, we will be supporting this, not just with a stream like this, but with all of the things that come with high-level fights on Showtime. That includes an all-access series, 2 episodes. Will be premiering March 29th and April 5th. And we know it will be an interesting ride along the way. We will see you on April 13th.
Thank you, Stephen. Now we'll hear from the championship teams.